He told her she was replaceable. The words cut deeper than any knife. She blinked, stunned, while he laughed like it was a joke. She had given him everything. Late nights, early mornings, whispered dreams, and a heart she thought was sacred. And he tossed it aside as if it weighed nothing. That night, she left, vanished into the shadows of a city that would swallow her whole if she let it. No one saw her leave. No one called her back. Years later, he would meet a woman in a glass tower office. Calm, poised, dangerous in her beauty. She owned half his company now. Half. And she looked exactly like the girl he had thought he could break. Only this version had no warmth in her eyes, no mercy, no forgiveness. Her life had been a quiet storm of dedication and love. She had poured herself into every meeting, every project, every smile, thinking her loyalty meant something. She believed in him, in them, in the dream they were building together. But he never believed in her, not truly. The first crack came like ice underfoot. A whispered slight at a meeting. A glance that lingered too long on someone else's idea, dismissing hers. Then came the cruel words, "You're replaceable." He said it like a fact. Not anger, not a fight, just finality. She laughed at first, nervous. She assumed he was joking, but the laughter died in her throat when she saw his eyes. Cold, detached. He had meant it. And then came the humiliation. He spread her mistakes like wildfire. Every late report, every small oversight, exaggerated into a narrative of incompetence. The colleagues she had once called friends looked away. Some whispered behind her back. Some smiled at her fall. She felt herself dissolve, piece by piece, under their eyes. At home, there was no refuge. He was distant, cruel in casual ways that burned deeper than anger. Ignoring her presence, mocking her subtly, reminding her constantly that she was nothing without him. Nights were sleepless. Days were a blur of shame. She walked through the office like a ghost, a woman betrayed, invisible, unheard. And then one day, she left, not in a storm of tears or anger, not with a fight. She walked out of the revolving doors, the city swallowing her whole. No one saw her again. He assumed she had fallen, broken beyond repair. He assumed she was gone, but she wasn't gone. Her heart shattered, yes. Her dreams trampled, but her spirit burned quietly beneath the ashes. Every betrayal, every cruel word, every dismissive glance became fuel. Pain transformed into purpose. And when she vanished, she did not vanish into nothing. She vanished to become someone no one would ever underestimate again. She disappeared into shadows, but she did not disappear into nothing. The city outside moved on, unaware of the woman who was quietly remaking herself. She changed her name, her look, her life. The tears of betrayal hardened into a steel resolve. She studied. She learned. She sharpened her mind like a blade. Every lesson she had missed before she now absorbed with precision. Every mistake, every slight, every humiliation she cataloged them like secrets to use when the time came. Her beauty returned, but it was different now. Not soft, not inviting. It was deliberate, controlled, dangerous in its perfection. She wore power like armor, and calm like a cloak. People underestimated her, and that was their greatest mistake. She built herself from the ground up. Small businesses, investments, quiet victories that went unnoticed. She learned to read people like open books, to sense weakness, to anticipate betrayal before it even occurred. Money came. Respect followed. And through it all, she smiled softly, knowing the world had not yet learned her full measure. Sleep came easier now, without fear. Nights were hers. Days were hers. She felt the pulse of her own power in her veins for the first time. She no longer begged for love or recognition. She commanded it quietly, invisibly, with subtlety that left no footprints. And then came the moment she realized she could return, not as the woman he had destroyed, not as someone to pity, but as someone untouchable. Someone who could walk into the room where he had once laughed at her and see him falter. Someone who could turn betrayal into art. She did not rush. She did not shout. She simply planned. Every move measured. Every strategy rehearsed. Her heart, once raw and bleeding, was now calm. Her mind, once clouded with heartbreak, was now a weapon. And her soul had learned that true power was in quiet, in patience, in knowing that when she returned, she would be unstoppable. The world had tried to break her. It had failed. She walked into the city like a ghost with a purpose. No one recognized her. Or maybe they did, but their eyes failed to place her. She had changed everything: hair, posture, aura, but the essence remained. Sharp, unyielding, calculated. The office towers that had once echoed with her laughter now felt small, insignificant. She returned quietly, blending into the world that had once chewed her up and spat her out. She observed. She listened. She catalogued every weakness, every arrogance, every habit that had once been his advantage. At first, she tested the waters. Small gestures, a contract subtly rewritten to favor her, a business lead rerouted, an ally turned in her favor without them realizing. Tiny victories, delicious because they were unnoticed, invisible. He, the man who had claimed she was replaceable, never suspected. He laughed as before, charming, arrogant, blind. She watched him falter in minor ways and felt a spark of satisfaction. Not cruelty, not hate, justice. He kind that didn't shout, that didn't plead. The kind that left him questioning himself while she smiled quietly in her office, calm as a still lake, reflections perfect, unbroken. Her own empire began to grow, silently, power gathering like a storm behind glass walls. She networked with precision. Every move she made was subtle, a thread woven into the tapestry of her inevitable triumph. Colleagues she had once trusted, friends she had lost, they all became pieces on her chessboard. And through it all, she kept her pain hidden. No dramatic confrontations, no public shaming. She carried it like a secret weapon, a memory sharpened to perfection, fueling her strategy. When she finally walked into the conference room where he presided, the air changed. She smiled softly, polite, but her eyes were knives. She did not speak of the past. She did not need to. Everything she had endured, every betrayal, every humiliation, had led to this quiet moment of dominance. He sensed it, a shift he could not name, a presence that unsettled him in ways he had never imagined. The game had begun. The day came quietly. No fanfare, no warnings. She moved like a shadow through the corridors of power she had once been denied. Every detail she had studied, every weakness catalogued, now became her instrument. It started small. Contracts shifted subtly under her influence. Investors began to favor her decisions without knowing why. Colleagues who had once laughed at her mistakes now sought her approval, unaware she had been the architect of their success. She controlled the chessboard, and he could only guess at the moves. She cornered him with precision. A deal he had boasted about fell apart in his hands. The client, persuaded by her quiet counsel, now sided with her company. His confidence wavered. The charm, the arrogance, the smug laughter all faltered. He tried to recover, tried to act above it, but she had anticipated every response, every weakness, every prideful misstep. And then, the final moment. She walked into the boardroom where he sat at the head of the table, expecting dominance. She smiled, cold and composed. "I own half the company now," she said softly, as if stating a fact of life. Not a triumph, not a threat, just truth. He froze. His eyes widened, and for the first time in years, he felt small, powerless. The man who had called her replaceable now realized she had been indispensable not to him, but to the world that had recognized her brilliance. Regret flashed across his face, raw and unmasked. But she felt none of the old anger. No, revenge had never been about cruelty. It had been about justice, about proving that the woman he had discarded could rise higher than he ever could. Her dignity remained untarnished. Her heart, once broken, beat strong and steady. She watched him stumble through the humiliation of recognition, not with malice, but with the calm satisfaction of a storm long prepared. She had reclaimed everything he had tried to steal: her power, her voice, her life. And in that silence, she finally felt it, the perfect equilibrium of pain transformed into triumph. The scales balanced. The betrayal repaid, not with vengeance, but with brilliance.